set my world on fire. You're my heart's desire.
Hey everyone, so it has been a while since I have made a video. I think it's been at least 2 weeks. I haven't actually gone back to see how long it's been, but I know it's been a while because I keep getting questions and comments about it. So I do apologize, but a lot has been happening in the past few weeks. But I wanted to make a video just giving a little update on what has happened since my last video with the miscarriage concerns, scare, whatever we want to call it, that was going on, and just get everyone up to speed with what is happening now. So I have a few notes here, that way I don't bounce around too much because I don't want to make this video super long, but I probably should have watched my last video so I knew what I actually talked about. But just to give a little summary, around, I think it was like 5 weeks when I had an abdominal ultrasound. It was a really old machine, nothing special, and we didn't really see much. It was like a really tiny gestational sac, and even that was difficult to find. So my doctor was concerned, which initially I wasn't concerned because I knew going in that you don't see much on an ultrasound that early anyway, and especially not on an abdominal ultrasound. But my doctor was really concerned, and that just like freaked me out. And so we basically were told that this was most likely like not a viable pregnancy. So that was really upsetting, and I was kind of preparing myself for that. But before we would know for sure, my doctor wanted to do an HCG, like beta draw, I think is what it's called, where every 48 hours for 3 different draws, we see what's going on with my HCG levels, because they're supposed to double every 48 hours. And if that was happening, then everything was basically fine. So went in for my first blood draw right after that appointment, and my levels came back in the 3,000 range, and that was fine. HCG levels can really vary during pregnancy, so I wasn't concerned about that. It was the next draw that was concerning, because the levels came back 48 hours later as in the 4,000 range. So they only rose a little over 1,000, and that was really concerning because they obviously did not double. And I was almost 6 weeks at this point. I think I was 5 weeks and 5 days at my first ultrasound, and then I was 6 weeks, or around 6 weeks when I had my second blood draw. And so it was kind of concerning. It was really like, we just had no hope really that anything was going to work out. But then I went in for a third blood draw, and it showed that my levels were actually in the 8,000 range. So they doubled from the 4,000, which was really, really good. But I was still concerned because I went back and looked at my levels for my first pregnancy. I don't know why I did this, but I decided to, and they were around 8,000 when I was like 5 weeks, and I ended up miscarrying in that pregnancy. So it was just freaking me out that like I'm further along in this pregnancy and my levels aren't as high and whatever. So I didn't really know what to think, but I ended up having another ultrasound in my 6th week. I believe it was. I wish I would have been filming this as everything was happening because I'm already kind of forgetting. But in my 6th week, another ultrasound, and we basically just saw the gestational sac and the yolk sac, which is good. That's pretty much what you can see around that time. Some people can see the fetal pole, but not always. So that wasn't concerning, and that was done with a vaginal ultrasound. So everything was fine. I went back again. I don't really know why, but I went back again at 7 weeks for another ultrasound, which was basically like my first official ultrasound if I didn't have the other one, because it was around the same time I had my first OB appointment. And we saw the gestational sac and the yolk sac and the baby. So that was really good. Everything was like looking perfect. But something that was concerning is that they did see a little sac of fluid near the gestational sac, and no one could really tell me what it was, but they kept asking me if I've had any bleeding this pregnancy. And I did have bleeding one time. I think I was 6 weeks and 2 days, and it was just really, really light pink spotting when I wiped one time, and that was it. And I kept asking, like, they just kept asking me if I've had any bleeding. And so I finally asked them, like, why are you asking me? And they were kind of taken aback, and they were like, oh, nothing, you know, we just see this little fluid thing here. And I asked them what it was, and at this point, like, the doctor was in there to like make sure everything was fine too. And he was like, well, sometimes it's blood, sometimes it's just some random fluid, we don't really know, but that's why we're just wondering if you've had any bleeding. And I said, you know, I just spotted that one time, and I asked if it was a hematoma, because having had 3 losses, I've kind of done a lot of research with bleeding, especially because I've in all of my first 3 pregnancies, I had a lot of spotting in the first trimester of all 3 pregnancies. So I asked about the hematoma, which is kind of like, I think it's called a subchorionic hematoma, or sometimes it's referred to as a subchorionic hemorrhage. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. But it's basically like this little blood clot thing that happens during pregnancy sometimes, and they can be very small and just be absorbed by your body naturally, or they can be passed out as a clot, or sometimes they're really, really big and can cause issues. So I asked about that, and the doctor didn't really seem concerned, especially because I wasn't bleeding, and they said it was pretty tiny. But at my OB appointment, after that appointment, I asked her about it, and she said that it wasn't even noted in my chart, like about the ultrasound notes, so that they must have not really been that concerned about it. But that's definitely still been a concern for me. I haven't had any bleeding or cramping or anything, but that's kind of freaked me out. Other than that, I think that's probably all that I need to update on regarding the whole miscarriage scare. Basically, everything turned out fine. There was just all of this chaos for nothing, because everything as of right now is perfectly fine. The baby is doing good. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I will leave the link in the description. I do post more frequent updates on there, but if you have any questions, you can leave them down below and I will try to get to them as soon as possible.